All right, we got another Jeep in the shop. This old classmate of mine from school, high school, gave me a text the other night, or actually a few weeks ago, and said, hey, local shop changing his oil or whatever, and noticed some leaks, and he's been noticing some leaks in the driveway, and he ran it by me what he thought it was doing and what the shop thought it was doing, and sounded like something familiar. 3.6 Pentastar motor. It's leaking a little oil, leaking a little coolant. Runs down the bell housing, down the transmission, and off of the transmission pan and the transfer case. I'll show you. If you can see all this is coolant dripping. All this is coolant dripping and a little bit of oil mixed in. Got some oil and some coolant, but it's coming all the way back here. All the way back here. See this? All the way back here. So that's oil. And let's see here. That's coolant and oil. And that's coolant. What these things do is they have an oil cooler or oil filter housing, and they gotta grab a rag. They're made of plastic, and they're up under the intake manifold. It's your oil filter. I'm gonna let this thing down and show you in just a second. It's your oil filter screws in and out, and it's a paper element, and it screws into a plastic housing, and that housing is attached to an oil cooler, and that oil cooler has oil going through it, cools the oil, and it also has antifreeze coolant, engine coolant going through it. And those things tend to warp and they start leaking, and you'll get a little bit of fluid that it pulls up in the valley under the intake manifold, under that cooler, until enough of it pulls up and it runs down the back of the transmission and down the back of the transfer case and everywhere. So we're going to show you how to fix that, and show you a new and improved part that you might want to pick up if you have this problem with your 3.6 Pentastar, Jeep Wrangler, Grand Cherokee, Caravan, Town and Country, or whatever comes with a 3.6 Pentastar. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up, and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas, if you got any questions, I'll try to get to them the best I can. I've already popped the engine cover off. There's a little plastic cover, that deal right there. It just clips on right here. Here's your oil filter housing. So your oil filter, this screws off, and your oil filter element is paper, and it's inside of there. This little deal right here goes all the way back under this intake manifold, and it warps with the heat, and it leaks oil and coolant down underneath this in this valley. And it's pretty deep down in there, and I mean, there's sections of it that are like that deep, and it'll pull in there, and then you have a driveway that's off camber, or even these engines kind of sit in here like this. It'll just run down the back of the engine, the back of the top of the transmission, and kind of find a path of least resistance and drip off wherever it feels like, and can cause quite a mess, which this one's definitely causing quite a mess. Now, these things can have oil leaks from other places, but this is the most common that I've seen so far, and we want to fix that first, clean it up really well, and see if anything else is leaking. I picked up this kit, which is a Doorman 926-959 oil filter housing kit, and it's got some instructions, and they've also got a video on their website for Doorman. It shows you how to do this if you want to attempt it on your own, and I'm also making you a video right now. So the new housing is all aluminum. So this is the housing. You got O-rings, coolant lines that come in, and this seals down like that, and this oil cooler sits on top of it like so. And yeah, so the new piece is all aluminum. Gives you this cap, which is also it's upgraded. So you start running, and it says right here, it says stop, do not proceed without reading. This vehicle has been retrofitted with an upgraded oil filter housing from a 2015 model year vehicle. So it's running the new style oil filter, which is in here. This is your oil filter. Comes with a filter. Comes with all your bolts and all your little O-rings. So these filters are a little different the way they slide in from the 2013 model, which is what we're working on. We're working on a 2013. So I believe this upgrades all the Pentastars, but you need to look those part numbers up for yourself just to double check for whatever application you're working on. So what we want to do is pull off the other upper intake, of course, so we can access that. And there's going to be a little bit of procedures to do that, and I'm going to do some checking real quick to double check. I'm going to try to use my bore scope to look down in the valley here, which I know it's doing it because I had it up in the air and I can see it running down the back of the top of the transmission. My brother's Jeep did the exact same thing a few years ago, and we replaced his, but we used another plastic one because that Doorman aluminum one was not out yet. When Jason hit me up, he said, you know, told me what was going on via text, and I did a quick Google search and found that Doorman is making a retrofit kit for these, and they make a few other aluminum pieces for these Pentastar motors too. I think a timing cover and some other things. They make a aluminum thermostat housing. So if you ever have to replace any of these parts, you might want to look that up and go with aluminum, because it won't warp like the cheap plastic parts that they're originally made out of will. All right, it's pouring down rain, so sorry about the snare drum effect we've got going on with this metal roof, but I'm going to take my bore scope and I'm going to look down in this intake, or under the intake, and just kind of look around. Sorry about the camera work there. Just kind of look around for coolant and oil, see if I can see anything down in there. Just to confirm what I'm suspecting is wrong, which is that oil cooler, which I'm pretty sure is what it is. But I'm just going to poke around down in there. You can get one of these bore scopes cheap. You can get them on Amazon, or you probably get them at Northern or Harbor Freight or Auto Parts Store. Everybody's got these things now. They used to be very expensive. It's basically just a camera, you know. It's not a very good camera. You get the gist of it. See, it's sometimes it doesn't pick up very good up close, so it's better if it's a few inches away from it, as you saw right there when I was reading that label with it. But I'm gonna poke around here for a minute, see if I can confirm it. Let me show you real quick. See that? I hope y'all can see that on the screen. See all that shiny coolant? You can see where I've got it pointed, right down there below that oil filter housing. See if we can go back a little bit further. Yeah, see, it's pulled up down in there. Yep. So when we pull this upper intake off, we'll be able to see a lot better, but that confirms it. And we'll start ripping this thing apart, I guess. I'll make a super detailed video about how to remove and install this. I've already done that, and I believe it's in auto repair, in the playlist under auto repair, but I am going to move it to Jeeps. I'm trying to put everything that's Jeep related under the playlist named Jeeps. So I've got quite a few Jeep repair videos over the years on JKs, TJs, YJs, a little bit of everything. So I'm trying to get them all moved under that Jeep playlist, so you can check that out if you want to watch that one. I am going to touch base on most things that need to be taken off, like you're going to have to take your air intake tube off, you're going to have to unplug sensors, vacuum hoses, there's intake bolts. You have to get all this stuff out of the way to get down to the oil cooler. So I'm not going to show you step by step, bolt by bolt on this thing, because I already made a video on that. Mainly I wanted to make this video showing the new aluminum upgraded version that Doorman's making for these oil filter housings slash oil coolers. So we'll touch base, like I said, on a little bit, but I'm not going to show you every nut and bolt that I'm taking off of this thing. It's pretty straightforward on the upper intake pull. I plan on doing this tomorrow, but I decided to go ahead and start tearing into it tonight. After I ran the camera down, saw it, I just thought I'd go ahead and start muscling it out a little bit. There's your upper intake. That's what the upper intake looks like when it's off. Or really, that's what the lower intake looks like. Crawl up on this thing. So now I got to get this lower intake out. There's a few brackets you got to fight around. This one to get the upper off. This one you got to fight with this bracket here that holds this power cable down. It's kind of wraps around the other side of the valve cover down there. There's 2 tins you got to take off down there. Then you got to get this lower intake out of the way because all this is underneath it. All right, once you get your injectors unplugged off the rail on both sides, you can unbolt the lower intake and roll it over to the side. It should be out of the way enough where I don't have to take the fuel line off, which is just right here, and take it all the way out. You see, I'm going to shine a light. Hopefully it won't make it too bright. There's coolant all down. You might just have to take my word for it. This is probably going to be too bright. Down in this valley, way down here in these crevices. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's oil sitting right on top of here. There's oil all down in the valley down in here, and it's going to be all over. I can see it all down around. Another thing you got to be careful with is let me just turn this off. The wire loom has gotten so hot and brittle. Let me get some of this out of here. I'll show you. It's just this little plastic stuff. Look at that. It's just disintegrating. That's just like this stuff here, but that's it was all on this wiring here. So as I moved it out, it's piled up all along down through here, and some of it's falling down in the intake on top of the valve, so I'm gonna have to suck that stuff out with a vacuum or blow it out with an air hose. Get that stuff out of there. It's so brittle, it's not gonna hurt anything. If it was to fall in there, it's just gonna blow it right out. But I'm not gonna leave it in there, I'm gonna suck it out. So you're gonna see me in the next clip, but it's gonna be tomorrow because about 10:30 at night, and I'm done. It's been pouring down rain, and which, you know, I'm not getting wet or nothing, but it's just I'm ready to go to bed. I'll see you in the next clip, and that'll be tomorrow. So we got the shop vac out and got the air hose out, and we blew off and vacuumed up all that broken up insulation or wire loom, whatever you want to call it. It is the next day, like I said in the last clip, it would be the next day. So we've got to get that cooler out of there and I blew some of that coolant to the back. You can see it dripping off the firewall back there. And I haven't opened up any coolant lines yet. So quite a lot of oil in the intake manifold. This thing's burning some oil. It's got some blow by. See all that oil? There, so there's the old plastic housing. There's your cooler. Here's the seals. Well, the seals, that's one seal, and the other ones are still down in the block. I gotta pop them out. And you got an oil pressure and a coolant temp sensor. So we're gonna reuse these. Pull these out and transfer them to the new one with new thread sealer, pipe sealer. And we'll take all this coolant and oil stuck down this valley. I'll suck all that out, dry all that up, and I'm going to change the oil when I'm done, because when I took the hose, there's a hose that goes on the back of the cooler for the coolant. I'll show you. Right here, there's a coolant hose that goes there. It makes a mess when you pull it off, and I'm worried that coolant got down the oil passages, so I'll go ahead and drain the oil. Let's get a new oil filter anyway. He just had his oil changed, but we're gonna go ahead and change it again because I don't want to make sure there's no contaminants in it. To suck all that oil out of that valley is this air evacuator. So basically you just hook air to it, and it pulls a vacuum and sucks it through this tube. But you can use you don't have to buy something like that. You can buy just a turkey baster, like from the grocery store, with a bulb at the end. I have one somewhere, but I can't find it. I was going to show you. You just squeeze it, and it sucks it out. You know, something like, anything like that you can use. Just to draw that fluid out, or you can just put a bunch of towels down there and soak it up. You can do that too, dry it up real good. I'll probably do that after I suck it out with that evacuator, just to get all the little stuff out that I can't suck out with that, and dry up the moisture. Yeah, that's probably what I do. All right, so once you get it all cleaned out down there, you're not going to get it every single drop out, but you're going to, do the best you can, because I mean, you just don't want it pulled up down in there. You got knock sensors down there. These are your knock sensors here and here. You want to keep that stuff dry. You don't want it swimming in a pool of coolant and oil. You can see how deep those crevices are, though. They're very deep, so they hold a lot down in there. And when you pull the oil cooler off, you add a little bit to it. And I took some brake clean and just sprayed it out, cleaned around my ports. And then I took my air gun, and I blew all that stuff out with put like a napkin over the top of it and blow them out, and then wipe them out. And then make sure there's no napkin or shop towel residue or anything like that. And make sure you don't leave any shop towels down there for sure. Just want to get it dried up as good as you can, and get your mating surfaces clean. for where your new O-rings are going to go. That's the good thing about all this. It's all O-rings seated, so there's not like any gasket material you're scraping off or anything like that, which makes that part of it great. Yeah, it's a lot of bending over. If you got a big bumper on the front of your Jeep, you're gonna be hating life doing this job. My brother's has a bumper, bull bar bumper on the front of it, and climbing over that thing to get in these things are not fun unless you have one of those special ladders that has a platform where you can lay down over it, which I don't know why I've never bought one of those, as bad as my back is. But I just sit here kneeling on this pad. You can use a yoga mat or get you one of these mechanic pads or whatever. But once you get everything cleaned up, I'll wipe these surfaces down for these for this intake gasket. They're kind of flat. Anyway, I'll clean that up real good, and I got to transfer my sensors. You guys have to ask me what size sockets to use and stuff like that. There is some specialty stuff, like when you're taking the bolts out of the oil cooler, it holds it down to that intake valley. These are inverted Torx bits. So this is what they look like. And my eyes are getting bad, and so I think that says 8mm, or number 8. That's a 10. You'd think it'd go 9, but I think it jumps down to 8. Anyway, these are snap-on, but you can probably get these at Harbor Freight or a parts store or something like that. And then this sensor is 1.16" is what I got on it, and then this one's a 19mm. So that's just what I grabbed it out of the box. It fit it real quick, and I'm gonna pop those sensors out, transfer them into the new cooler and our oil filter housing. I guess this is actually the cooler and this is the housing, but so when you look this up, it's called the oil filter housing, but it's all one deal really. There's two sensors in that oil housing, and one of them's the oil pressure sensing unit, the other one's the oil temperature sensing unit. Well, I broke the oil temperature sensing unit. The oil pressure sensing unit came out fine, but my socket cocked sideways when I was trying to get that loose. That thing did not want to come out of there. So I broke it, and I went and got us a new Mopar replacement. Shit happens. Got a new sensor there, Jason. All right, there's your side by side. New aluminum, old style plastic. I don't know why the factory didn't do that, but and then your cap's gonna be orange. Whoa! Let's try not to drop that. Anyway, you got the gist of it. All the O-rings come with it. Comes with new intake O-rings. There's O-rings that seal this down, and new screws come with it. And it's 106 inch-pounds is what you torque these to, and the mounting bolts for to mount it to the engine. And that's it. So it's got good instructions. Their website has a video as well, which is probably be much better than this video. Went and just slammed my garage door. Yeah, so we got all the new O-rings installed, including that one that seals the oil, and of course the O-rings that are under the oil cooler. I haven't torqued this yet. I'm gonna wait till this is torqued down, and then I'll torque this last. And it also came with intake manifold O-rings or gaskets, whatever you want to call them. So I'll climb up there and change those out, and because those are pretty flat that are on the lower intake, so it's got lower and upper intake gaskets. All right, so we got all the new O-rings installed, including that one that seals the oil, and of course the O-rings that are under the oil cooler. I haven't torqued this yet. I'm gonna wait till this is torqued down, and then I'll torque this last. And it also came with intake manifold O-rings or gaskets, whatever you want to call them. So I'll climb up there and change those out, and because those are pretty flat that are on the lower intake. So it's got lower and upper intake gaskets. All right, I got my lower intake gaskets, or O-rings, whatever you want to call them, swapped out. I got the oil cooler installed and torqued down to 106 inch-pounds on the housing and the cooler. Got my sensors and my hose plugged back up in the back side of it. I'm going to slide my filter in and the housing, or the cover. And then then I'll pop the lower and upper back on. Get this air tube stuck back in. And that's about it. That's probably all. I'll probably end it about right here so we don't make this video too long. I've got tons of videos on Jeeps, tons on JKs. We're gonna have to top off the coolant system on this, which means we'll have to burp it, have a video on that. It's under Jeeps. We have some under auto repair under that playlist, so check out the playlists. Hit that subscribe button if you would. Hit that thumbs up button if you would. If you got any comments, please drop them. Ask me a question if you need to. Leave me a comment. I don't care what it is. Let me know if you got anything out of it. Got any questions, please let me know. The Doorman kit is, Doorman's a manufacturer that's known for fixing manufacturer flaws and parts, or producing parts that manufacturers are no longer producing for older cars. I've been using their products for years. Most of them are pretty good. I can't say, you know, nothing's perfect. It's not a perfect world, especially in the automotive business. You do get parts that, you know, suck sometimes, but as far as this goes, everything looks legit. This is the first one of these I've done. I've done a factory replacement with another plastic housing, but this is the first aluminum Doorman housing that I've done. Check out their website. All the auto parts stores sell the Doorman parts. Everybody sells Doorman, so it's not hard to find these parts. You can get them anywhere. Don't be fooled by the cheap China imitation stuff that is all over Amazon and stuff like that. You can find these kits for like 60 bucks on Amazon. I don't know the quality of them, but you know how that stuff goes. You get what you pay for sometimes. This kit's about 320 bucks or something like that at the parts store. I suggest you buy local in case you have a problem and you got to take it back. If you buy online, then you've got to ship stuff back and it becomes a royal pain in the butt. Sometimes I buy parts online. Most of the time I try to buy local in case there's an issue. I can take it back to the counter, swap it out for what I need, or, you know, whatever. So anyway, got like, I don't know, we're approaching 840 or so videos, I think. So check it out. Got tons of auto repair videos and different playlists. So yep, we'll be back on the Trans Am after this. I'm finishing up wiring this bad boy up with the LS3 and the 4L80E vintage air. Getting real close. I just got to hook the wires that power up the inside of the car and hook the starter wires up and finish putting the controller wiring together for the 4L80E that we put in it. And I got to hook the wiring up for the vintage air kit, which isn't a whole lot of stuff, but yeah, getting real close on that thing. There's a ton of videos on it for the last 3 years. It's been a drug out long process, but we're getting very, very close to wrapping that thing up. All right, appreciate you watching. Peace.